Hello everyone and welcome back to another video. Now in today's video, I am trying to finish my summer TBR. So that's what this whole reading vlog is gonna be. It's just me finishing the last 3 books on my summer TBRs. Earlier this summer, obviously, I posted my summer TBR video and I think I had like 20-ish books in that video. And I have read through almost all of them. I just have 3 left. And I feel like if I keep putting off these books any longer, I am never gonna read them. I wanted to make a video and I figured this would hold me accountable so I can actually get them done. And it's really difficult right now because I've been buying and collecting a lot of books for my fall TBR video, for my spooky season TBR video that's gonna be coming out in a month, maybe 2 months, in a month and a half. And I'm just like itching to start reading those. Like I'm so excited about the books I'm reading this fall. I just have this nice big stack that I'm trying to make sure I don't touch them too early. So I'm trying to force myself to read the other books that are not in that TBR just yet. And I need to finish my summer one. The 3 books that I'm going to be reading in this video is Twice Cursed Serpent, which is by Scarlett D. Vine. Now this one, if you watched my summer TBR video, or maybe if you didn't, it is a fantasy book. So I'm really excited about this one. However, it is book 1 and I don't have any of the other books. And I actually just finished a fantasy series. So I feel like I'm going to set this one aside and not do this one first because I want to do a different genre starting out. So that way I can kind of keep the 2 different fantasy books separate. I don't want to have to like read this and then get out of that fantasy world and read the other 2 genres and then have to jump back to it. I'd rather be able to just binge this one and then go into book 2 if I'm really enjoying it. So I'm gonna wait on this one. Now my other 2 books, both of them, I'm kind of at the point where like both of them are kind of intimidating to me. The first one is The Devil in the Dark Water by Stuart Turton. Now he wrote The 7.5 Deaths of Evelyn Hardcastle, which I also own, which is actually on my winter TBR, or going to be on my winter TBR. So I'm really excited to read that one because that one definitely gives like Clue or Groundhog Day and Agatha Christie vibes. So I want to save that one for winter, but I really wanted to read this one this summer because it is held on a ship. It is once again a murder mystery type thing and it just sounds really interesting. It's got a ton of detail inside the book with like detail on the ship that they're on. So I am excited to read this one. However, it is a very big book and I'm just like intimidated. I don't know, looking at it, I get nervous just thinking about reading it. And the other book that I'm very intimidated to read is Ship of Theseus by V.M. Straka. Now this one, once again, if you watched my TBR video, then I did already kind of explain this one, but it is by a famous movie director who I think he directed Star Trek and maybe something else. But anyways, he actually made this book and it's really cool because it's very interactive. I feel like this one is gonna be such an experience and different than anything I've ever experienced in a book before. What's really cool is in this book, you are reading a story, but in the margins, there's 2 people who are writing back and forth to each other about the book. So this is the actual book that the people in the margins are communicating over and they're giving their opinions and talking about life and just getting to know each other. So I feel like it's gonna be a really cool pen pal type relationship. And also you might have seen there are these like different little inserts in the book. So like whatever is happening in the story, there's actual like newspaper clippings and like tickets and stuff that has to do with the story. So this one I can just already tell is gonna be super interactive and I'm really excited to read it. However, I've been putting it off because it's just very intimidating to me. So really excited to finally get to all of these books. I actually think that I'm gonna start with this one first. I might hold off my thoughts until I finish all of the books and tell you at the very end, but stick around and you'll get to see me read the rest of my summer TBR, hopefully. Fingers crossed I actually am able to do this. So I've been reading Ship of Theseus for about a week now. I must say I'm not doing so hot. I just wanted to give a quick update on how the book is going and my thoughts on it. Quick side note, Dunkin' has their fall menu out. So if you're a big Dunkin' girly, I do recommend going as soon as possible. This is what is getting me through this day and this week. So it gives me immense joy. But anyways, back to the book. So like I said before, I have been reading Ship of Theseus for about not quite a week yet. It's probably been about 5 days. But each day that I've been reading it, I have to say, this is like one of the hardest books I've had to read. And not because of the story itself, it's the way it's written. It's going back and forth, but whenever you're going through, you can see like the different pen and pencil that they're using, so you can tell the difference between the two characters just by their handwriting alone. But there'll be times where like one character will say, refer to this page for the rest of my comment or for something. So then you have to like flip forward to find where they wrote down their comment, and then you have to go back to the page that you were on. And sometimes they have little footnotes at the bottom of the page, and so when you're reading along with the actual story in the book itself, you have to go down to the footnote and then they make a comment on the footnote. So like your eyes are just like going like this all over the page. And I have to say, I've been getting headaches from reading this book. Like I try to read in the evenings, and maybe I need to switch up when I'm reading it because it's been so incredibly difficult for me to read this book. I get a headache and I can only read about one chapter at a time. That's another thing about this book that's been really difficult for me, is the chapters are so freakishly long. Like, no joke, each chapter is from somewhere between 30 to 40 pages long. It's just been really difficult to get through, so I've just been reading like one chapter a night because I start to get a headache. And I am actually starting to read the Twice Cursed Serpent, so that fantasy book that I also have to read within this video. I've been slowly starting that one as well because I just need a break from this one. Not that the story is bad. The story itself, it definitely has kind of like an old-timey feel to it. It feels like more like the way it's written and more of like a classic novel feel, just the way it's written. It's not modern by any means. And I think that's also been tripping me up a little bit because I'm not used to that. I haven't read too many classic books. This book, it's been a challenge. I really like the two characters in this book. I really like their relationship and how it's evolving with their pen pal relationship. I'm about 111 pages, I think, into the book, but I'm just gonna continue reading one chapter a day, maybe 2 chapters a day, because it's too much. Like, it's taking me so long just to read one chapter by itself. And like I said before, I get a headache. So that's why I'm taking breaks and reading the other book at the same time. The other book that I'm reading at the same time is The Twice Cursed Serpent by Scarlett D. Vine. Now, I actually am really enjoying this one. I'm only about 40 pages into it, so not that far yet. But I like the story. I like the main character. It's definitely a different type of fantasy than I'm used to, like just the whole concept behind it. And I'm really looking forward to seeing where it goes from here. I think that I already know who the main like love interest is going to be. We've already been introduced to him. So I'm excited to see how his relationship with the main character evolves in this book, because they are technically enemies and aren't supposed to like each other or care for each other at all. Like I said, I'm only 40 pages in, so I feel like I don't have too many opinions right now, but I'm hoping I can read more of this today and the following week. I'm really glad I'm making this video because otherwise I would not feel like I could do it. I'm holding myself accountable just by making this video, so that way it kind of forces me to read these books. I'm so incredibly determined to read and finish this book because I really love the look of the book. I really like the way it's laid out. It's such an interesting concept because it feels very immersive. Like, me and the characters who are writing back and forth are kind of in the same boat, so it feels like I'm just a part of the story itself. And I do really enjoy getting to see like all the little like random knickknacks, because these things that are tucked into the in between the pages is from the two readers who are writing back and forth, and they put it in the book because they want the other person to read it. Like, it could be like a newspaper article, or like that was, I think, a postcard, and someone or one of them wrote a letter to the other person because they wanted more space to write and communicate. So it's just stuff like that that I think is really cool and interesting. I just think this is one of those books where I'm just gonna have to take it slow and take it day by day. This might take me 2 weeks to read, which is fine. Some books you finish in a day and some books you finish in a month. So I think that I'll definitely finish this book. It's just gonna take me longer than I was expecting. So it's a few days later and I did indeed finish The Twice Cursed Serpent, and I think I'm gonna wait till the end of this video to get my thoughts on everything. But I finished that one. I actually finished that one pretty quick. For the most part, it was a decent fantasy book. I did start The Devil in the Dark Water. I'm really liking this one so far. I'm probably 2/3 of the way through, so I'm getting close to the end and I'm really enjoying it. I didn't expect to like this one that much. I thought it was going to be really difficult for me to read because it's a thicker book, and I also thought that just like the way it's written, I didn't think I was going to enjoy it, where it's third person, like it bounces around to different characters and stuff that are on this ship. I like the characters in it. I like just the storyline itself and just the idea of it. And I'm really intrigued to see how this whole thing is going to wrap up, how it's going to end. I'm hoping to finish this later. I haven't been doing too great filming for this video this week because I've been super busy this whole week, and I've just been reading whenever I've had the chance, and I haven't thought to film any clips. That's why I'm giving a quick update now. I am still reading Ship of Theseus by V.M. Straka. So this one, like I said before, it gives me headaches if I read it for too long. I am almost halfway through it, and I've been kind of going back and forth between this book and then the other 2 books, which I don't normally do, but I feel like I have to do that for this book, and I'm hoping I can finish it within the next few days. But yeah, I gotta say, this is hard. It's hard forcing myself to read books. Luckily, the books that I'm being forced to read are good books. Overall, I'm enjoying the books I'm reading, but I just feel like I'm dragging through all these books, and I've been thinking about fall. So excited. But yeah, hopefully I can finish these books within the next couple of days because I'm over it. Scooters got their fall menu out finally, and I got their chai tea latte, and then I added their pumpkin cold foam on top. It's really good. I will say it kind of has a weird aftertaste, so I'm not loving that. But besides that, it's really good. So this is going to be the end of finishing my summer TBR. Now, I must say, I don't know if I'll ever do this again because this was very difficult for me. I've said this multiple times during this video, but I'm in a fall mood. I'm in the mood for fall themed books, like the books I've been buying. And so forcing myself to read some of these books was honestly so incredibly painful. Nothing against the books themselves. I will say none of the books that I read for this video were 5 stars, sadly. I did enjoy them, but I just did not enjoy the process of forcing myself to read these books because I'm just not in the mood for them, and I'm a big mood reader, so this was tough. But the first book I started out with was Ship of Theseus by V.M. Straka. Now, this book was really interesting. It was very immersive. I really liked the style and the format of the way that this book was written. However, like I said earlier in this video, it did give me a lot of headaches, so I was only reading like 1 chapter at a time. Now, that doesn't sound like a lot, but there's only 10 chapters in this book, and each chapter is like anywhere from like 30 to 50 pages long. I hate books that have such long chapters because it's just really hard for me to get through it. I feel like sometimes it gets a little boring at moments, and that's just really difficult to read for that long. I hate saying this, but I'm actually still not finished with this book. I kind of feel like a failure when it comes to this video just because I did not finish this book yet. I'm still working through it. I only have a few chapters left, but it's just been really difficult for me to get through, and I don't want to force myself. Like, I've already started reading another book because I didn't want to go into a reading slump, and I feel like if I keep forcing myself to read this book and I need to finish this video, then I'm going to go into a reading slump, and I'm not doing that right before fall. So I refuse to do that. But if I had to give this book, as much as I've read, if I had to give this book a rating, I would say it's at a solid 3 stars at the moment. It could go up and down depending on how it ends. I think that'll be what determines for me if I liked this book or not. I like the 2 characters who keep writing in the margins in this book. I've found myself reading and paying attention more to their conversation than the story itself. And I think that's maybe how the author wants it to be. And I'm okay with that. But it's been very confusing. I feel like I keep rereading paragraphs because I'll read part of a paragraph and then it bounces over to their conversation, and then that goes on for a while, and then I have to jump back into the book, but then I forgot what I was even reading. It's a very challenging book to read. If you're a beginner when it comes to reading, I do not recommend this book for you. However, if you want to challenge yourself and you're a big reader and you want something new and exciting, then I would recommend this book. The next book I started reading was The Twice Cursed Serpent. Now this was a fantasy book. This was actually a really quick and easy read for me. It did go by really quick. I felt like the chapters were short, which I enjoyed, and the story itself was pretty interesting. It was a different type of fantasy than I was used to, which I was okay with. However, I only gave this a 3.5 stars. The reason why I have it at a 3.5 is because it didn't give me a 4-star feeling. And also the relationship that goes on in this book, I didn't see that connection with the characters. The way this book, with the timeline with it, it takes place over a full year. And by the end of the year, it's like, it would tell you, you know, the two characters, they've been with each other for this many weeks, and then they've already progressed in their relationship. And it's like, I want to see how they got to that point. I felt like it went from like to love so quick, and it even went from like strangers to like really quick. Felt like the timeline was weird, and I didn't feel the connection I wanted with the two characters. Now, this was just book 1, so there is a second book, and it's not something that's high on my TBR list at the moment, just because I'm not like in love with this book. However, it was still a solid fantasy book. I did enjoy the whole idea of it. So the main character, she's trying to break a curse, and she has a year to do it, or otherwise she'll die. So it was interesting in that way, watching her try to figure things out, and also seeing the relationships and the people around her and how the magic worked in this world. Like, there's these people called soul carvers, and the reason why they're called soul carvers is they're the only ones who have like actual magic. And since they have this magic, the way they get it is they basically give themselves to their goddess that they believe in, and she puts them through all these trials, and if they survive the trials, they get to choose how they are killed. And depending on how they choose to be killed, that will result their magic that they get later on. If you chose to freeze to death, then you have a strong power over ice. Some people didn't even get to come back to life. So the goddess gets to choose who comes back with their magic and who can handle it the best. And so it's still a gamble even if you make it through the trials. So it's kind of brutal, but I liked that whole part about it, and I thought that was really interesting. I might continue this book later on this year. It's not something I'm in a rush to get back to. The last book that I read to finish off my summer TBR was The Devil in the Dark Water. Now this book I rated at a 3.75 stars. I really enjoyed it. I would say 75% of this book I was loving, and I was at a solid 4 stars for 75% of this book. It had really short chapters. I liked how it bounced between the different characters on the ship, so you got to see like what was going on all around the ship. However, the last 25% of the book, I feel like when the climax hit, it just confused me. It lost me because there was a lot going on at once, and there's so many characters that you're following, and it was really confusing keeping track of who was doing what and who was on whose side and all that kind of stuff. So that's why I dropped it down to a 3.75 stars, not quite a 4. I liked the story itself. It definitely felt like a mystery thriller, kind of like, you know, Murder on the Orient Express. That's kind of the vibe I got from it. I thought the mystery was really interesting, and I was excited to see how it ended. It did have a twist at the end that I wasn't necessarily expecting, but I knew there was going to be some sort of twist, so I liked that. It did answer all of my questions, which I appreciated, but I just feel like that last 25%, it just lost me, and that really was disappointing. So that's why I dropped it down to the 3.75. But overall, still really good. I do really like this author. I'm definitely going to read his other book, The 7.5 Deaths of Evelyn Hardcastle, this winter. I would recommend this book to other people, especially if you like Agatha Christie and you like those types of books and movies. This was a really good book that I feel like falls right under that genre. And that is it for my summer TBR. Like I said before, I'm still working on Ship of Theseus, sadly, but I'm hoping I can finish it super soon. But these are the 3 books that I read during this video. I did enjoy some of it. However, a lot of it I didn't enjoy. I didn't like forcing myself to read something I wasn't in the mood for. So I think in the future, if I ever have books that are still on my TBR for that season and I didn't get to them, I might just push it off and read it the next year during that season, because this was just very challenging for me. I was afraid I was going to go into a reading slump, but luckily I started another book so that way I could get back on track. Thank you guys for watching. I know I didn't film a whole ton. I feel like this video was just not very successful and I didn't get as much recorded as I wanted to, but I've been very busy and I literally was just reading. At any spare moment I had this week, I was trying to read. Comment down below if you've read any of these books. Also, I do post every Tuesday. I don't know if people have noticed that, but I post every single Tuesday. If you are interested in hearing me rant about more books and talk about other books, stay tuned every single Tuesday. I'm really looking forward to the upcoming videos I have in store for fall. It's gonna be great. My favorite season is upon us and I'm so excited to get into the fall mood and start reading those books. I will see you guys next week.